Hey, what's up? I wanted to walk you through the newest patch that just dropped for NASCAR 25, explain what changed, why it matters if you've been messing with custom cars, and share a little context about how this fits into the last month or so of updates. The headline is simple and actually pretty sweet for creators and anyone who likes to show off unique liveries online. The developers changed how the paint kit slots work in online play so that all four paint kit slots are now available when you're racing with custom cars online. That's the kind of tweak that sounds small on paper, but totally changes the creative workflow. If you were previously juggling which shapes and decals to squeeze into a limited set of slots, you no longer have to compromise between your main design and the extras you wanted to show off. This change is explicitly called out in the official patch notes summary for the update. Alongside enabling all four slots online, there's another technical but welcome fix. Custom car shapes can now be used across all four paint kit slots. Previously, the fourth slot was restrictive. You could use shapes in the first three slots, but not the fourth, which created awkward workarounds for people aiming for complex, layered designs. Now, the fourth slot behaves like the others. So, if you had a multi-layered decal or a sponsor placement that relied on that extra space, you can finally place it without hacks or trimming your design. That change is also mentioned in the developer-provided notes, and it pairs well with how the game's paint booth has been evolving since launch. There are a couple of more visible bug fixes in the patch as well. One fixes a visual glitch in the victory scene at Portland International Raceway. That moment when you pull into victory lane is supposed to feel special, and the devs addressed an issue that made that scene look off for some players. The update log mentions that the victory scene visual issue was resolved, so those cinematic moments should look cleaner now. Beyond visuals, the patch includes a performance-focused fix. An issue that could sometimes cause longer load times on the game's initial boot was corrected. That's one of those things you don't notice until it's gone, but faster startup matters for streamers, for folks jumping into quick sessions, and just for saving precious time before you get into a race. The patch summary lists the load time fix among the changes, and while it's a behind-the-scenes tweak, it's the kind of quality-of-life improvement that players appreciate. Putting that into context, this patch follows a prior mid-January release where the developers added a few features tied to custom content moderation and sharing, plus some race additions and other fixes. In that earlier update, they introduced user-generated content moderation tools, the ability to block and report paint schemes, hinted that shape sharing was coming soon, added Portland into some quick race and online playlists, expanded available car numbers for paint kits, and addressed multiplayer bump drafting behavior. So the February tweak feels like the next step in a series. First, they gave tools for sharing and moderation. Then they refined the paint kit system so creators can actually make, and display more complex skins in online lobbies. What this all means practically is that if you're someone who makes custom paint schemes, you get more freedom. And if you race online, you're likely to start seeing more ambitious liveries from other players. Creators who were constrained by the earlier slot limitations can now revisit older designs and rework them with more depth. The moderation tools introduced earlier also make that sharing ecosystem a bit safer, since you can report problematic content and feel more confident when downloading or importing other people's shapes. The combination of sharing, moderation, and now fuller slot support makes the paint booth feel a lot more like a community feature than an isolated editor. I should also call out that the update touches a depot that the patch notes list as changed files for this build, which is a sign that devs pushed content or assets at the file level. For folks who track game files or follow Steam Depot updates, that's the backend side of the fix. The update specifically references a depot as having changed files tied to this patch. That's mostly relevant to people who dig into the file diffs to see what exactly was swapped or updated. Community reaction to the ongoing sequence of patches has been a mix of relief and patience. A lot of players have been vocal about custom paint limitations since launch, so fixes like full slot support and extra car numbers have been welcomed. There have also been ongoing conversations on the game's forums and on social platforms about performance, control support, and feature parity with older entries in the genre. These patches show the developer is iterating in response to feedback. The discussion threads and coverage across smaller outlets reflect that this is a responsive period for the title. Incremental improvements, not sweeping overhauls, but meaningful ones for daily players. If you care about the specifics while you're scripting a video or prepping a stream segment, the official changelog is a tidy reference because it lists the precise notes the developers posted, and you can pair that with the earlier January notes to tell a short narrative. The team added moderation and sharing capabilities, expanded numbers and tracks, and now they've cleaned up the paint kit mechanics so creators can actually use those tools in online races. That's a pretty neat progression to explain to viewers who follow the update cycle. Small steps that collectively improve the creative and multiplayer experience. So yeah, that's the core of what changed in this build. full access to all 4 paint kit slots and online custom CarPlay, full shape support across those slots, a Portland Victory Scene visual fix, and a startup load time correction, with the depot files updated on the back end. It's the kind of maintenance and polish patch that doesn't reinvent the wheel, but removes friction for creators and smooths out a couple of rough edges across the game's presentation and performance.